the SM Media Podcast Network.
Hi folks, and welcome to the latest episode of the SM Media East of Scotland Football Show. I'm Scotland Pike. It is always a delight to be your host, and we've got a busy weekend to look back on in the East of Scotland. Some good results in the league and some good successes in cup action. To join me this week to talk about the action and to give his own kind of perspective on things at the moment, it is a pleasure to welcome former Thornton Hibs assistant manager and Hutchison Vale manager for not very long, but we'll get into that. It's a pleasure to welcome onto the show Stephen Batty.
Yes, Scott, appreciate having me on.
Pleasure, mate. I'm looking forward to this. Now, we spoke a bit about last week, obviously. We touched on the kind of situation at Hutchison Vale, and we also want to talk about your kind of background in the game as well. But when I first was kind of getting the season previews ready, as I do, I go through all the clubs and get any information that I can and any changes. And went on Hutchison Vale's page, and it was announced that Stephen Batty was the new manager of Hutchison Vale, taking over from Stephen Craig. When I then messaged you about it, that wasn't the case.
2 weeks later, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. What happened?
So I don't think you really know exactly what a club's like until you join.
Mm-hmm.
When I got the job at the start of June, there's no signed players at all. Not really any structure to it, and that was okay. And they've got obviously a terrific youth setup,
yeah,
which they're renowned for, and that meant that you were trying to bring in under 20s players, and there's some good, very good, to be fair to them, under 20s players. Keelan Arthurs, Rory Jack, Lucas Crockett. I think they'll all go on and do well, and you're just trying to find some experienced players to help them along the way. We signed Riley Haston, who'd be a good striker for us, and he got diagnosed with an injury on his first training back, out for 12 weeks. Owen Smith, the goalkeeper, he lasted 15 minutes before injury in the first game, and then we're kind of using a under 17 goalkeeper, which no blame on him, but kind of shows you where we were at as a club at the time. Trying to bring in players, and had bringing in a goalkeeper on loan, bringing an experienced centre back, centre midfielder, trying to put a bit of structure to the club, bringing in a goalkeeper coach, trying to get a link up with Napier University to get a sports science provision.
Mm-hmm.
But I think when you're looking at the environment and you're trying to get that in the way that you want it to be and trying to make certain changes, I think it was quite clear that the club and myself weren't aligned behind the scenes, and I think you've got to have that, and especially with recruitment, organisation, communication. I still think that the club's tried to make changes. I think the club kind of pushed back on that. They're now in their, I suppose, fourth manager in a year, which maybe speaks for itself in terms of the stability and the structure there. But ultimately, I've left, and I think it was about 8 weeks. I think 8 training sessions I think we had together, so it was kind of very short. But ultimately, I think it felt, and I think it wasn't the right fit, probably from the club side and myself.
And that as well, like certainly from kind of my perspective in terms of the club, and like kind of last week, a couple of people had said, like, you kind of went too far. I'm like, when you're covering the league and when you're looking at clubs, particularly at the start of the season, all information is important to kind of find out what you can write, because you don't want to write stuff and you don't want to talk about stuff that's not there. Do you know what I mean? But I think with Hutchison Vale, and they're not the only ones in particular, it's very difficult to get information. Like, if I didn't speak to you, I wouldn't have known. So therefore, there'll be a lot of people who will be watching this that were under the impression you were still at Hutchison Vale, because there was
no
correspondence about it.
Yeah, the club's not actually put out an announcement I've left.
And
that
that
was
to me is a problem.
A few weeks ago. Yeah, I actually put something out myself just to kind of clarify the situation to people. But I think that's, part of what I was trying to implement was not just improving what was kind of on the pitch, but the whole club. From I think social media, it doesn't win you games, but when you're trying to portray the club in a certain professional standard, it's really important. And you see teams maybe 2 or 3 leagues below that have got a really good social media presence. So that's just kind of one part of it. But there's not really any excuse for in this day and age not doing it.
And one of the things as well is, I think you'll maybe appreciate this from a management perspective as well, like having a kind of strong social media presence and having like information that you can find out, like, helps you attract players. Like it does. Like it's going to be very difficult for Hutchison Vale if players are not sure who the manager is from one game to the next. And I know that's like very silly to say, but like as well, like there has been 4 managers in a year. Like if you're going to a club and you're like looking at maybe speaking to a club, like if you're not getting any information from them publicly, like it's very difficult to like commit to them. And that's the bit I don't get at all.
Especially if you're a player and you're looking at your next club in Hutchie Vale or whoever. If one team phone up and want to bring you on board, and you can see that they're doing business and that they're putting things in place for next season, and then you look at your second option and they've got nothing on social media. It looks like even if you've signed 7 or 8 players and you've got a group that you think is going to be competitive, that goes against you, and players kind of make. I think you'd be very naive to think that players don't make judgments based on that.
Oh yeah, I know for a fact they do. And like in terms of yourself, like being with Craig so long and Craig having that well-established culture at Thornton Hibs, was that a difficult decision for you to then take your own kind of steps into management? And I'd imagine your kind of time with like Dundee United and East Fife and their kind of youth setups, was that the attraction with Hutchison Vale? Was that kind of youth development and that kind of legacy they have? Because you think of clubs, particularly in Edinburgh, like, I don't think there's many clubs with a better record than Hutchison Vale for bringing through talent. You look at a lot of players from that area that have went on to build internationals and league winners that they probably came from Hutchison Vale.
Yeah, they're a massive club at youth level, and there's kind of two parts to that question. Is obviously I've loved my time at Thornton and working with Gibby, and the club. It's a brilliant club, but I just kind of felt it was the right time for me to make those steps to be a manager myself. I've done a lot of coaching. I've been coaching for 15 years and got my A license, and just felt it was the right move. And then you're obviously looking for the right club and the right opportunity. I know that my background previous to Thornton was working with youth players and brought players through at East Fife, and really enjoyed my time there as well. And I think when you look at Hutchie, and I suppose that I knew going into it that we were going to have to go young, and I think that my skill set suited that. Getting players into a structure and trying to get a bit of experience to help them along the way. But I think had I been given time, I think it would have been a good fit. The 20s that are coming through are good lads, and they want to work hard and they want to do well. So I was, when you put kind of my background and you put with Hutchie at the time, and still are obviously, I thought it was quite a good fit for me. But like I said before, it's not really until you get into a club and you understand the structure and kind of who's around that you don't really realise exactly what it is that you've walked into.
See, obviously, when you were at Dundee United as well, would that have been like kind of after the kind of time where it kind of like you look at the Ian Cathro time? Like, I know it was more than just him, but the players that they brought up, were you there at that time, or were you after that?
Just after, I think he left. Yeah, he left maybe a season or 2 before me.
But obviously the kind of structure that was in place then, like going into that, like how important is that to have that level of development and the track record that they had even at that point? Like, I imagine that would have been something you'd have wanted to implement yourself.
Yeah. Ian did a lot of work at younger age groups. He put a structure in place, and his legacy at the club kind of continued after after he left. Brian Grant was the head of youth for most of the time, But some of the players that were coming through, have gone on to do really well. Dundee United's another team that's got a great track record for bringing players through. They've got a lot of good coaches there. I think it's there for about 7 years, and it's great to take players that you've worked with as young players make their way into the first team. I think Ross Graham's just been made captain, and he was someone that I worked with when he was 14, 15.
Yeah, and again, as well, you obviously want to see, particularly a club with that kind of history, you want to see them do well, but it is difficult to see how they kind of move forward when they've got these sort of problems. And again, I couldn't even tell you who's there now. I know, I think I think the kind of people that have been in place, and it's the same. Again, their kind of women's team as well. And I've spoken about this in other shows. When you've got a club that they're so difficult to speak to and get on with, it's very difficult to see them. How do they build on that? And I know for yourself, I don't imagine you carry kind of any bitterness, but I'd imagine when you were in there, you would have had a plan, and for it to kind of fall apart so quickly, you must have been just gutted and just your entire summer. You must have just felt like this was a kind of waste of time. As that was going through your head?
Well, I think the more frustration than anything, because the potential of that club's massive. And they've got big plans for Stockton. That might take 2 or 3 seasons to come to fruition. But when you look at the size of the youth setup, and you look at getting back to their kind of own facilities, I don't see in this. You look at the situation that they're in just now, but you look at where Hutchie could get to. And then you compare them to, Spartans or Edinburgh City. There's no reason why they shouldn't be down the line going and competing with them.
No, absolutely not. And again, it's a difficult situation. But obviously, in terms of yourself, are you kind of thought about what you kind of want to do next? Is this a kind of?
Yeah, I'm just taking my time. I've had a couple of phone calls, and I'm actually just enjoying getting out to go and watch a few games and taking some of them. I'm not in any rush to get back in. I'll wait for the right opportunity. But it's when you kind of have that being your first job, and that's how it ends. You kind of can go one of two ways. But I'm still passionate about it, and I still want to get back in. And you kind of asked the wrong thing to do to leave Thornton. I feel like I'm ready for that, and I'll be a better manager for. I've only been there for 8 weeks, but I'll be better for it.
Yeah, absolutely. But we'll get your kind of thoughts on Thornton and other teams in the divisions as we get on. Just in terms of the weekend, in terms of cups, Whitburn getting through the first preliminary round of the Scottish Cup. They beat Steens Thistle 3-2. I think Steens Thistle, are they based in kind of Falkirk Way as well? So
I think so, yeah.
So good result, good amateur team. I like Whitburn, and obviously they'll be looking to win Johnsonbury. They play next as well, who obviously get through Irvine Meadow. So it's a tough test next for them.
Yeah. And then that's a good result against Steens, because they're obviously a big banana skin.
Mm-hmm.
But they'll fancy. I think they play Johnsonbury, but I think it's at Whitburn.
It's at Whitburn, yeah.
They'll fancy themselves there. I know they've got players in there that have got a lot of SPFL experience. Kyle Lafferty, Cam Eady, and McShane, but it's a kind of one-off game in the cup, isn't it? And they'll be certainly hoping they can maybe replicate what Musselburgh did last season.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it's one of those you would kind of if the TV. I think the TV cameras start in the first round, but if you look at the kind of the ties, and you think that's one
that'll be the one, won't it? Yeah,
that could have a wee bit of a kind of story behind it as well. Whitburn obviously done very well, and good result for them. Alex Jack Cup was obviously how Whitburn got through to the Scottish Cup. So obviously the winners of that get entry into the kind of wee round robin thing with the winners of the West Cup and the winners of the South Cup. Hart Hill, Edinburgh United, Kennaway, Kinnoul, Leith and Newborough all progressed into that. They'll obviously go into playing next rounds, which we'll get into maybe later on in the season. But just a week of interesting results. Hart Hill, that'll be a good result for them after a difficult start to the season. They won 2-1 at home to London, but Edinburgh United 4, Inverkeithing 1. That's some result.
Yeah, good result for them. Inverkeithing are, I don't think they've won any game this season. I think they're really needing to pick up some points.
There were 3 draws with 3 league games.
Yeah. And I think they play Clydebank at the weekend.
Yes, they do.
They don't get any easier, harder than that, does it? But they've got, when you look at their squad, they've got players that have played at good levels, and they've got quality in there. So Gary Sibbald, I know him well, but he'll he'll fancy himself, I think, to turn that round. It's literally three draws. It's you're not far away. You just sometimes need that first win to go and kick you on again, don't you?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And again, like that cup as well, it presents a massive opportunity for teams to get that kind of Scottish Cup experience. And I know in terms of the licence that a lot of teams will be looking for that, but a massive opportunity. And you can see Whitburn can go and have a really good run. And you look at that Alex Jack Cup and think that's the kind of reason they can do that.
Yeah, we got to the final my first season at Thornton, and we lost to Lunkerty. But it just gives you a buzz, when you get far in competitions, it gives you that buzz. And like I say, if you've not got a licence, it gives you that opportunity to get into the Scottish Cup. And I think that's, when you're at this level, it's special to be playing in those competitions.
Absolutely. Let's move into some league action. Obviously, next week will kind of be dominated with the Challenge Cup, so we will have a roundup next week. We'll take a week off and then come back to normal the week after. But just in terms of this weekend, we saw 3 teams still have a 100% record. They won their first 4 games. Jeanfield beat Haddington 3-1, goals from Simpson, Campbell and Urquhart. Musselburgh won 3-0 at home at Newton Grange, goals from O'Kane, Brown and Smith. And Hillaby 3, Dunbar 1, Smith, Tosh and Bridgeford. I think a lot of people thought those 3 would have good starts, and it's proven to be the case.
Yeah. I think Jeanfield just keep going, don't they? They've been really good so far this season. I will kind of blip in the cup against Oakley, but that sometimes happens when you rest players. But no, a really good performance away at Haddington, which I think that's going to be a tough place to go. Mm-hmm. I watched Haddington against Bo'ness. They were very lively, and I think they, on a different day, might have got 3 points. But Jeanfield, particularly going a goal behind, they'll be delighted to come back. I think there was a quite harsh red card for Haddington. It's kind of, I think the refs kind of give it for handball, but it looks to me from the highlights that it's kind of come off his body onto his arm. That was harsh, but I think Haddington looked, when I saw them a couple of weeks ago, they looked good. I think they'll be handy, and I don't think there'll be many teams leaving Haddington with 3 points.
And they've had a good start as well. Again, that was their first defeat, but they'd obviously picked up 5 points for their first 3 games. And we know Scott, we know the job he does. They're industrious, they're very tough to beat, and I think Jeanfield, they have a lot. We can tell with their kind of 12 goals for the first 4 games. They've got a lot of depth in it. I would include Musselburgh and Hillaby, even Camelin in that as well. They just look stacked in attacking areas, and when it's such a tight league, that's going to make a lot of difference. Yeah,
and showing that bit of character as well to, like I say, come from a goal behind. I think they play Hillaby soon. Mm-hmm. That'll be a big test for them.
Yeah, Jeanfield, obviously, they'll be looking to take advantage next weekend because they play in the league while Musselburgh and Hillaby are in the Challenge Cup. So that'll be a good opportunity for them to put a wee bit of kind of breathing space between themselves. I know they'll obviously have games in hand, but it's a good opportunity for Jeanfield. Really impressed with Dunbar. Dunipace's result, 1-4-0 at home at St Andrews. Goal, double from Martin France, goals from Sutherland and Heaver. Dunipace obviously go above St Andrews in the table. It's a big kind of 3 points for Dunipace, who have started the season very well.
Yeah, they have. And, Danny Smith keeps him going, doesn't he? I was really surprised, not by the result, but by maybe the margin of the result. I think St Andrews have recruited well. I actually thought they might be kind of pushing Jeanfield, Hillaby's, Musselburgh's at the top, and they still might. They've got a lot of good attacking talent, but for Dunipace to put 4 past them, I thought that was a terrific result for Dunipace.
Yeah, I was really impressed with that result. And again, St Andrews have been a bit interesting this season because they kind of lost. They won opening day against Sauchie, lost against Dundonald, and then they go and beat Hutchison Vale 7-0, and you think they're kind of picking up now, and then you lose 4-0. Kind of winning 7-0 at home, then losing 4-0 your next game. It's a weird kind of difference, isn't it? It's a 11-goal swing.
Yeah, they'll need to find a bit of consistency, but I think they've, we're still in August, and there's been, they've signed 7 or 8 players, and once they kind of get to know each other and get bedded in, I think they'll be fine. Greg Shields a good manager, and Stuart Milne, his number 2, I know him well from Dundee United. He's a good coach, so they'll be fine. But just on Dunipace, good to see Martin France get 2. He's a boy that was at Dundee United and had a lot of injury problems, so to see him getting back fully fit and getting amongst the goals is brilliant.
Yep, absolutely. Let's move into a good result for Pennycook. Actually, their first win of the season. They've obviously that was their first points. They won 5-0 away to Socky. Like after losing your first 3 games, like nothing puts a statement like a 5-0 away win.
Yeah, I don't think Ryan Harding would have been too down about the first 3 games. I think he had a really difficult run of fixture, didn't he? Hillabreath, Musselburgh.
Halabeath, Musselburgh, and Camelin.
Yeah, doesn't get really any harder than that. I think they've got Genefield away in the league next for them. But yeah, I watched the highlights of that, and I think it they looked ruthless. They pressed Socky, and when they won the ball back, they've broke forward quickly in numbers. And as much as they're kind of down at the bottom of the table going into the weekend, it's probably a bit of a false position for them. I think Pennycook will be absolutely fine.
Yeah, I think again Niall Kemp scoring a hat trick as well, and Stuart and Healy with the goals. I think it's a good result. Dundonald 1, Bo'ness 1, Berry for Dundonald and McDonald for Bo'ness. Bo'ness in 5 points and Dundonald in 4. And Hutchison Vale with their first point they drew 0-0 at home to Glenrothes. Do you kind of thoughts in any of those teams? Like, what do you kind of think of Hutchison Vale? I don't know. I don't know who's there, and I don't know what their kind of structure is, but they've had a really tough start. Like, was that when you were going in before kind of what happened? Were you kind of expecting it was going to be difficult?
I think going into the season, you're gonna you know that young players are gonna take some time to adjust to the league. I think you've got to put them into a good structure and make sure they're defensively difficult to beat. I was at the Whitburn game and I thought they were really quite open. But they did get it back to 2-1 at one point and lost a couple of goals before half time, which kind of ended the game for them. But that would be the clean sheet more than anything else.
Yeah,
is a massive thing for them. They now have something to build on, and that I think conceding 20 goals in those games, it's obviously not great, but the positive for them is that they've got that clean sheet. They've kind of broken that, and they're not cut adrift at the bottom either. They can. There's a good squad there. Like I said before, they're good lads and they'll work hard. So I don't know if they've managed to bring in a bit more experience. Whatever, I'm not sure, but that's a big result for them to go and build on that. And I think they play Kello Rovers in the cup this weekend, and that gives them an opportunity away from the league to maybe go and get some goals and get a win. And the whole mood around the camp will change if that's the case.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
The Dundonald kind of go a bit under the radar, I feel. Jason Dare's done well there, and they've got some good players there. I think that maybe suits Bo'ness better, that result. Being away from home, and the highlights made it look kind of more like, I know you're a bit like Dundonald were on top, but Bo'ness have maybe got an issue with the number of players that they've got, 2 on the bench on Saturday and 3 during the week. So I don't know if they've got boys working or boys injured, but they'll hopefully get some back.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Let's move into the first division. Armadale lead the pack at the moment, 10 points from their opening 4 games, 6-1 home win over Edinburgh Uni, a hat trick from Bailey, a double from Heath, and a goal from Coyle. Coco just knows. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's just motoring. Again, it's such a good start again, and the kind of attacking power they've got, I really do think they're going to do well.
Yeah, I think so. And he's recruited well in the summer. I think Ryan Kelly from Oakley has been a terrific signing, and they're well organised. And they'll if they're not winning the league, I think they'll get promoted. They're looking, like they're going to do really well. Bit of a kind of hit and miss start for Edinburgh Uni, but I think you kind of judge them after September when they get players back in.
You got a good coach as well, good experience. Callum Elliott getting in there. I think it's a good appointment for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And they had a couple of good results against Blackburn and Crossgates, was it?
Yeah.
So yeah, they'll be fine. They'll be fine.
Edinburgh South sits second. They won 3-0 away to Crossgates, double from Fletcher Henry and an own goal. I think Ainsley's done a very good job as well. It's been a good start. I worry a bit for Crossgates though. I didn't expect them to lose their first 4 games.
No, nor did I. Alan Campbell's obviously there and experienced, and I think when I looked at the recruitment that he'd done and the squad that they've got, I think it's it's a side that should be a lot higher up. They should be challenging. So they're not bad players overnight, are they? But they've just brought in Brendan Ramsey from East Fife, who's a good player. He'll give them a bit more in attack. I think I wouldn't be surprised if Crossgates can go on a wee run and pick up some points, because, like I said, when you look at their squad, they should be up challenging for promotion.
Yeah, they absolutely should. 14-year-old club, they suffered their first league defeat on Saturday, lost 2-1 at home against Blackburn. Kind of thought, like, going into this game, obviously they were unbeaten in 3. Very good result last time against Heriot Watt. Like, what have you kind of made of Thornton? And like, in terms of obviously the job Craig's done's been unbelievable in the time he's been there, but would that have been disappointing at the weekend?
Yeah, I think so, particularly at home. And they're wanting to go on and make their home pitch a difficult place to go. And as you'll know, it's not the best surface. It's a difficult place to go. But I think they lost their last 2 there. Now they've lost in midweek as well. But I think they'll be fine. They'll be up there challenging. I'd be really surprised if they're not. They recruited really well in the summer. Bringing in Adam Robertson from Heriot Watt, Jay Sutherland, who was playing amateur football, but he's a really good midfielder. Joe Kinnamonth. They've increased the cover that they've got at full-back. Tommy Simpson joined from Oakley, I think it was. So they've added players that they needed to add, and they'll be fine. Like I said, I would hope and expect that they're up there challenging Armadale for the title. And there's really good core group there that experienced, and what Gibby's kind of achieved there is phenomenal when you look at the amount of loyalty that the guys at the club have got.
Decent start for Blackburn. Again, like, the way that league is so congested even already, but like, it's a good result. And again, like, they had a difficult start in terms of their kind of league. They lost their first 2 games, and then they go and pick up. I mean, going to Kirkcaldy and going to Thornton, winning the last 2, that's massive for them.
Yeah, it's a statement. Yeah, and Schooler seems to have done.
Yeah, he's a good start.
Really well. So they'll kick on, and the setup at Blackburn's really good. Good opportunity for them to challenge, I think. And you say losing the first 2, but turning around against Kirkcaldy is they'll be fine. Kirkcaldy they're a good side, so that's, I suppose, a statement from them. I think they'll be pushing as well.
Other results, obviously, Preston winning 4-0 at home at Whitehill. Again, good start for them. They're into 4th. Lochore winning 5-3 away at East Houses. Hat-trick from Greg Page. And Tynecastle, a good start for them as well. 3-1 away to Luncarty. All 3 of those sides in 6 points for opening 4 games. Like, again, a lot of goals. And again, you look at the players. Cameron Jackson's in a good start. Greg Page and Preston have got a lot of depth. And those are 3 sides that can be fairly happy where they're at the moment.
Yeah, I think so. I think Stephen McLeish will be delighted with that. It looked fairly comfortable, good value for the win. They got the win against Thornton midweek as well. Like I said, tough place to go. So he'll be happy with that. Lochore, I'm happy hopeful for James Adam. At Lochore, he's got a shoestring budget, and he seems to keep bringing in good young players. And they're in a good position just now, and hopefully, I know the last 2 or 3 seasons they've been kind of looking over their shoulder, but it's time for them to start looking a wee bit higher up and see if they can start challenging.
Yep, absolutely. Just before we get into taking a look at the 2nd and 3rd division, we'll have a wee word from our sponsors at Appin Sports.
SM Media's East of Scotland content is proudly sponsored by Appin Sports. Want your team to stand out on the football pitch? Then Appin Sports are here to help. Their online kit designer lets you create your dream custom teamwear range in your club's colours and with your club crest, sponsor logos, player names and numbers. Design yourself or work with their expert design team to bring your vision to life. Your order will also secure your place in their online club shop, making reordering effortless and giving supporters a place to get your amazing gear too. Head to appinsport.com to get started on giving your team a new and unique look.
Right, let's go into the 2nd division. We have West Calder leading the league with 10 points from their 4 games. 1-2-0 away to Burnt Island, goals from Zata and Wood. I think we thought West Calder would be would be up there, and they've had a fairly kind of solid start in terms of what they've had. But like, it's a 5-5 draw last week. Like, they've definitely got goals, but they'll want to cut out that last week. But I think going and keeping a clean sheet away from home is a good result. So this weekend to kind of stop that.
Burnt Island's a difficult place to go as well, but West Calder, I think they'll be disappointed if they're not getting promoted. Guys like Reece Duncan in their side, I think they'll be definitely up there and pushing. Shippey, a bit of a kind of hit and miss season so far, I think. But they've got guys like Jordan Hunter, Ben Anthony. There's goals in that side, so I think they'll be pushing as well.
Locheli Albert, who lost 6-0 at home at Burnt Island a week ago on Wednesday, have scored 15 goals since then. 9-0 away to Edinburgh College last week, and then winning 6-2 at home at Stirling Uni. Like, we've got the top scorers.
Good value for money there.
Yeah, like some statement after losing 6 of your own to then put 15 past two teams since then. Like,
yeah, and sometimes those games happen. It's how you respond to that. And there's certainly goals in there. I know Jordan McKenzie, he was at East Fife, and being at Glenrothes, he's gone in there. And Kieran Boundies knows where the goals are. Corey Batrick's just signed from Thornton, so they're a really good side. And like I said, that Chippy result maybe just a one-off, but it's how you respond to that, and they've certainly done that. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Good result for Dalkeith as well. 3-0 at home win over Edinburgh College. Puts them into 5th, and Fauldhouse drew with Coldstream 1-1. Xander Murray scored for Fauldhouse. Don't know the Coldstream scorer. I like Dalkeith. I think, like, again, they've maybe just had a difficult couple of years. Like, that's a good result. Again, Edinburgh College, we don't know where they're at, but all you can ask for is a comfortable win, a clean sheet, and that's exactly what they got.
Yeah, and it looked convincing as well from the highlights that they put up. I think Liam Cairns took his 2 goals really well.
Yeah.
And, the first one, I'm not sure if it was a shot or a cross, but 3-0, and I think it was a bit convincing 3-0 as well. But like you say, Edinburgh College are a bit like the uni sides, aren't they? You kind of judge them after September, but he does look like he's got his kind of work cut out for him.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll get into the 3rd division. Stonyburn are 4 wins from 4 in the league. That only, obviously, it's themselves and the top 3 in the Premier Division that the only teams with 100% record after 4 games. Hoyk have obviously got 100% after 3. Stonyburn won 4-1 away to Vale of Leiden. McConnell, Mackay, Cameron and Dunlop, and Hoyk won 2-0 away to County Central. Like, 2 sides with 200% records, and that's all you can ask for at this point. Yeah,
I think Stonyburn missed out last season, didn't they?
They were unlucky, yeah.
By a couple of points, and they'll be determined to go one better this year, and there's no better way to start. Hoyk, good start for Kenny, and Hoyk, he's a difficult job there, recruiting players, but it's a good result to go up to Cowdenbeath, because I think they'll do well. The difficult night against St Andrews, but they'll be competitive, and that's a good result for Hoyt going up there, and particularly keeping a clean sheet.
Yeah, it certainly is. Let's just go into as well Edinburgh Community 4, Pumferson 3. It's Edinburgh Community's first win of the season. They had 3 defeats going into that. And Livingston United obviously winning their first game as well. 1-0 home win over Tweedmouth. It's just getting that first win can just make all the difference at times.
Yeah, I think when you get to 2 or 3 games, and you just need that one game to kick-start, and they'll be hoping that's been the case there. But Tweedmouth are, they're a side that if they can get a bit of consistency, they're more than capable of going on a little run and picking up 4 or 5 straight wins and getting themselves right in the hunt as well.
Yeah, absolutely. But we do the action continues over midweek. We've got a few games to look at. We'll go to the Premier Division on Tuesday night. Glenrothes play Bo'ness, and Whitburn and Bar United. In the 2nd Division, Kennedy play Canoe. Any of those games interest you? They won't watch.
Glenrothes Bo'ness game. I think Glenrothes, they're still awaiting the first win, but they've been difficult to beat, haven't they? And particularly when you look at Bo'ness are playing Friday night as well. We touched on earlier the size.
Yeah, they play Newton's Range on Friday night.
Yeah, that's a quick turnaround for a squad that's not got huge numbers. So it'll be interesting to see how they get on there. Kennedy, I've got a kind of wee feeling for Kennedy this season. I think they've recruited well. They've had a couple of ding dongs with Kirkcaldy and Dyes over the last couple of weeks in the cup. I think they'll do well, and they'll be looking to get those 3 points.
Yep, and then on Wednesday, Linton play Armstrong in the second division, and we've got County Central against Newborough on Wednesday, and Edinburgh United against Ormiston. Armstrong, I wanted to touch on briefly. They've had a good start. Obviously, I don't think they played at all last weekend. Obviously, with the cups, but I think Fal will be quite happy with his start.
Yeah, unbeaten, aren't they?
Yeah.
The games in hand, and you're kind of not too far off it. I think they fancy going into Linton and getting 3 points, and they're always a difficult side to go to Armstrong. Really difficult teams, always competitive, well organised, and when you go there, it's at Linton, but you play Armstrong, you've got to be at it right for the start, and like I said, they're unbeaten, and you'll not be too disappointed with that start, that's for sure.
No, absolutely not. But that will do us for this week's episode of the East of Scotland Squad. Just want to thank my guest Stephen this week. Let's hopefully see you back in the game soon. It's been a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you, and I appreciate it.
All the best. Thank you very much to everyone that's tuned in. Thank you to our sponsors at App and Sports. If you want more of their stuff, follow the website on the link below, and we will be back. We'll do a roundup this week, Friday, with all the midweek action, and then there'll be a roundup later on next week with all the cup action as well. So stay tuned for that. We'll see you all soon. Thank you.